What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Checkmate Gaming. I'm Hold Shift, giving you guys the narrative and the things to watch for here in the CDL London home series. Of course, it's important to know who's playing in our home series, as all of our squads are in positions to potentially move forward in the overall standings before we get to playoffs. So, taking a look at Group A, London will be playing up against Seattle, OGLA will be playing up against Florida. And the big thing for this group in particular is you're looking at teams like London and Optic Gaming LA. They're currently sitting as the number 7 and the number 8 currently in the standings. Optic Gaming LA is technically in a three-way tie at 70 points with Paris and Toronto. So Optic need to have a good weekend here or they fall into the bottom 4. London, on the other hand, are in the conversation of just trying to raise their boost in the middle 4. There's not a lot of opportunity here for anyone to break into the top 4, as Dallas is the lowest at 190 points. The next closest is New York at 130. So for London, even if you win this weekend, you will not have a chance to break the top 4. But you want to make sure you secure yourself somewhere between the 5 and the 8 range. So making playoffs would be big. On the other hand, for the Seattle Surge, they're in a position to where they might be able to get into that middle 4 if they have a solid weekend. Again, they're at 50, but there's only 3 teams above them that are at 70 points each. So if they win 2, they're right there in that conversation. Meanwhile, for Florida, they're shooting for a top 2 seed. They're at 200 points, just below the Chicago Huntsmen at 220. So, looking at the matchups more specifically, London versus Seattle. First time these two teams have matched up, Seattle is going to have to be good in maps 1 and 2 to have a shot in the series, in my opinion. As the 10th and 12th team in Hardpoint and Search, respectively, getting off to a poor start versus a London Royal Raven squad that has been showing improvement will not bode well for the entirety of the series. The good news is that London has actually been pretty poor at domination, and it's by far Seattle's best mode. So, if Seattle can find a way to go up 2-1 early in this session and maybe see a Gunrunner and Petro search and destroy, this matchup very well could be favorable for the Surge. For me, it just comes down to what happens in those first 2 maps. If you can win one of them and you take the Dom, there is a chance that Seattle could upset London in this one, in my mind. Going to Optic Gaming LA versus Florida, these two teams haven't played since Atlanta, so don't even remember that. Don't even bother remembering that, because it was so long ago that both these teams are completely different. And obviously, this is a first look at the new roster for Optic Gaming LA. For me, I'm trying to see a brand new play style and a new look in whole for Optic Gaming LA, who has been all over the board all season long. The only way that Optic Gaming LA has a chance in this series, though, is if they take it to Florida. Don't let Florida on Gunrunner or Amaza for the hard point. Try to force them onto a Gunrunner Dom, and maybe you have a chance. It's a tall ask, and I don't anticipate this going all that favorable for Optic, but if they want to see this series extended a little bit longer, that's the way to do it. I still have a 3-0, though, for Florida. They're just looking too strong for a roster that we know nothing about at the moment, and I don't see the changes necessarily meriting them an increase in overall play. So, as we go over, take a look at Pool B. A much more interesting pool here, is there's a lot to fight for every single team still. For Paris, Dallas, New York, and LAG, there are a number of playoff scenarios that are on the mind. For Dallas, they're currently a top 4 team. They've mostly locked that in. But the better news is that you're not out of the running to potentially finish top 2 if you get a win this weekend. So you have to play well here. You've got a pretty solid pool, which you should get into playoffs with, but don't overlook anybody, because for New York, they're also knocking at the door, trying to make a run for a top 4 position. They're 60 points behind the Dallas Empire, and finding a win versus them is a big net positive. On the other front for Paris and LAG, Paris again is in the mix of that 3-way tie at 70 points. LAG is at the very bottom at 50, where they still could potentially make it out of the bottom 4. They would have to have a playoff-bound weekend, though, to do that. So, what do these matchups look like specifically? First time matchup for Paris and Dallas. Another favorable matchup, obviously, for Dallas, as Paris is one of the worst respawn teams in the game, and Dallas is one of the best respawn teams in the game. I don't really know what else to say here, analytically or statistically. Dallas is the better team. They should win this game. I've got them winning this game 3-0. I can't give you anything else. I'm sorry. Going over to New York versus the Los Angeles Guerrillas, though, with the new meta maybe not being here, this actually could be a decent setup and a matchup here for LAG. New York obviously still are the favorites in a lot of people's minds, and they should be. And LAG didn't necessarily look good in the AR-centric setups that were kind of caused with the M4 meta, but maybe they need that 4 MP5 where they can essentially close gaps, put their speed into play, and obviously be able to look their best. Keep in mind that even though last weekend LAG went 2 and out, they played every single map down to the wire. The problem is, even if they're able to keep New York off the Hackney Yard domination, this is still the worst domination team in the game, and that map 3 could very well just spell the tide for the entire series. LAG will have to win both searches here to have a chance and take one of the respawns away if they want to beat this New York squad. I don't see that happening. I've got New York winning this one 3-1. Those are my predictions, my setups, and my narratives. Hopefully that's a good setup for you guys as well to kind of keep your mind on things as we go through the day. Of course, we'll be back right here, not just on YouTube, but also live on Twitch for The Diffuse, our post-game talk show, where we'll break down all the action and give you guys the setup for the following days every single day after the games have come to a conclusion. So make sure you check that out. Until the next video, hope you guys out there keep holding it down. So long.